One of the most inspirational, forward-looking development meetings ever to take place in Galway in the modern era was organised in September 2021 by the Galway National Park City initiative for the benefit of the councillors and officials of Galway City Council. Chaired by Micheál Ó Cinnéide, ex-director of the Environmental Protection Agency, and formally launched by Mayor Colette Connolly, with the champions of the Galway National Park City in attendance, presentations were made by an array of world-renowned London-based developers, as well as a senior official at Cardiff Council, the chief executive of World Urban Parks and former senior government official in Australia, a former European Union official recently involved in the development of the Green Deal, and the founder of the London National Park City. All these experienced and highly respected individuals spoke of their support of the National Park City designation and the benefits that it could bring Galway.
So our last speaker, we're going to Cardiff, to Jonathan Maidment, who is the head of parks and the Harbour Authority in Cardiff. And they've done fantastic work in Cardiff on their tree strategy and on green spaces. So Jonathan, over to you, please, for a few minutes, and then we'll open it to the councillors and the officials. Thank you.
Diolch, Neil. Prynawn pawb. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to the meeting today. As you just mentioned there, my role is a senior manager within the Environment Service in Cardiff, with responsibility for the management of our parks and open spaces within the city, and also Cardiff Harbour Authority. I have no PowerPoint slides this afternoon, unfortunately, so you're going to have to put up with my mugshot. In terms of background, officers and politicians were invited to an event in Cardiff in the autumn of 2019, designed to stimulate interest in a national park city movement in Wales. It was a very well attended, interesting event. Dan spoke at that event as well, but it didn't necessarily generate the interest intended. Notwithstanding this, the council has been keeping an eye on the London model and the development of the Journey book that was published by the National Park City Foundation back in July, I think, of this year. And I was very, very pleased to see that and have a sense of direction about what Cardiff needed to do as a city to gain that National Park City status. On the lead up to July of this year, that was one significant issue for me as an officer, was trying to get my head around that status and what we needed to do to achieve it. So that was very, very, very welcome. And in May of this year, our cabinet received a report titled "Let's Make Cardiff Greener, Healthier and Wilder." This followed a motion that was tabled at a full council meeting in January. The motion was carried, and it called on the council to support the development of a national park city in Cardiff, and there was widespread endorsement from all the political parties that sit on the council. The recommendations contained within that report, and I'm more than happy to send the report to Brendan so it can be circulated more widely, was for officers of the council to be tasked with providing a secretariat and a venue for the purpose of developing a national park city for Cardiff, to provide support to establish governance arrangements to ensure momentum for an NPC movement in Cardiff, and to commission a third party to design and facilitate a national park city stakeholder event in Cardiff, one probably not too dissimilar to the one that Dan attended in the city in the autumn of 2019. I would emphasise that we are at a very early stage in Cardiff. Although we've been probably conducting a watch-in brief to date, our plans aren't well developed. We've got a lot more work to do. And we don't anticipate that stakeholder event that I just mentioned taking place probably until November time. Ideally, we wanted to do a face-to-face event, and we've been waiting for the COVID situation to improve. That hasn't happened, and it's getting worse at the moment. But I think we've got to draw the line somewhere, and probably going to have to go for a virtual stakeholder event as opposed to a face-to-face event. Talking at a very high level and talking out loud as well, we've considered the pros and cons of the status for Cardiff, and as far as the council's concerned, the pros do outweigh those cons. In terms of the pros, we do believe that the NPC status gels with the council's political ambitions and corporate plans, in particular our One Planet strategy, which was a vision that we set out for a carbon neutral city, which was published last year, and we've got that ambition to be a carbon neutral city by 2030. And again, I'm more than happy to circulate that document if there's interest. Also, Cardiff is one of the greenest cities in the UK. When considered on a per head of population basis, Cardiffians are extremely proud and protective of their green spaces. Having said this, I'm very, very aware that the National Park City movement and status is more than about the natural environment. It's about the built environment as well. It's about culture. We are a very green city, and we're proud of that. In actual fact, there's a green space in the centre of the city, formerly called the Millennium Stadium, now called the Principality Stadium, where on a beautiful day in February of this year, Wales narrowly defeated Ireland in the Six Nations in a fast and open game. I thought I'd get that one in. Community engagement is also critical for the council and its ambitions. And the council sees the National Park City movement as a tool for engaging with a wide range of stakeholders. That's all possible, we believe, with a National Park City movement. The cons, there's not a raft of them, but there are. But we believe that we can work through the cons. What is it? What is a National Park City? Some of our members are still perhaps a bit confused and haven't got that clarity, but I think we can provide that clarity and make sure they're not confused. As I said earlier, the journey book is very useful for me as an officer, and it'll be useful for the politicians in the organisation as well. So I think we can provide that clarity. We believe we should be facilitators as well, and I, at the senior officer level, my belief is the community, whether that's the local community, the business community, needs to carry this momentum through. The council, the local authority, needs to be part of this. We're a major stakeholder, biggest landowner in the city. We need to be in there. We need to be in the mix, but we need to be facilitators as well. We shouldn't be seen to be carrying a campaign and developing a movement on my own, and that's obviously reflected in the 10-step journey guide. What you have to achieve to become a city, I'm repeating myself again, but it's always been the question for us. We've got that clarity now. And what resources will it consume to develop, to gain that momentum, to achieve that status? It will require resources, and in local government, those resources are scarce. Those resources are reducing year on year. In my own service, I'm anticipating potentially between a 3 and a 5% reduction in my budget for next financial year, and that will be a fairly significant reduction. So it's a case of how we achieve this, how the council facilitates this movement over time. We do need resources, and that's an open question at the moment. Lobby groups as well, planning issues, planning applications. Will we be hostages to fortune? I don't think we will. I think if we gain that momentum, if we get the business community on board, all stakeholders on board, I don't think we will be hostages to fortune. But that term was used at an open meeting with councillors earlier on the year. So just to recap, we are at a very, very early stage. I welcome the opportunity to attend this meeting today, to understand approaches from other cities. The council is committed to building that momentum, the campaign, and achieving the status. I don't think it'll be a short journey. Neither do I want it to be a long journey, but I think it's one that the city and the local authority will benefit from.
That's great. Thank you very much, John. And I think that was very realistic and honest assessment of where you are. And I think we'll speak to the folks in the council here in Galway as well. So thanks to all our speakers. And the floor is now open, and we'd like to start with questions and answers from the members of the City Council and the officials.